Hey YouTube, Mike the Rinnai guy here. How we all doing today? Hope we all had a safe and productive week and we're all being safe out there. Okay, today's video we're starting on burner cleaning, which could reflect back to a code 11 or a code 12. So here we have an R9.4 exterior unit. Now it doesn't matter whether it's natural gas or propane, even an interior or an exterior. The difference is air box and the fan orientation, but pretty much what we're going to go through is going to be for all of the units. Now, in Rinnai's manual, in any of their manual, you have pages, usually one page front and back, that has codes. So code 11 and code 12, code 11 and code 12, the last on the list says check burner plate and inspect burner surface for debris. It's actually condensation or debris. And then on code 11, remove burner plate and inspect burner surface for condensation and debris. So we're going to go through the removal of the orifice plate, which brings the gas from the gas valve. Is the gas valve. So gas comes in through here, and the plate mounts to the front of that like that. We're going to look at the fan. We're going to look at the top plate. And we're going to also look at the burner. And we're going to look at the igniter and the two flame sensors. Igniter and the two flame sensors. All right, so what do we need? First thing we need to do is we need to unplug, disconnect power to the unit, shut off the gas. You don't necessarily have to shut the water off because you're not going to be doing anything with the heat exchanger, removing it. But if it makes you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and do it. All right, so you unplugged it or disconnected the power, turned off the gas. Okay, first thing, we're going to remove the igniter. Now, remember, this is an old unit, so it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the neck to remove this. Okay, so we remove the igniter, remove the rubber boot, put that on the side. Now, we're going to remove the two flame sensors. The first thing we want to do is we want to remove these 4 screws, which is going to remove the plate, and behind it is the gasket. So it all mates up together like that. And that is what is mounted right there, like so. All right. Now, I'm going to be using a drill. I'm used to using a drill. I do not recommend using a drill. Or, as I would say, I don't use a drill. But I've done hundreds of these, and I know how much I need to go and stop with the drill. So I'm going to remove these 4 screws. This is the first thing we want to inspect. And we're going to use our magnetic tray. And we're going to remove the plate that houses And we can tell right away how bad this is. And as soon as I get this out, you're going to see it. So this is how they orient themselves in there. You see the green on it. You see the rust on there and the green. So you can try cleaning this off with like Scotch-Brite or a little bit of emery cloth or very fine sandpaper. No file, no knives, no screwdrivers, no pliers, nothing. Don't only use like a Scotch-Brite or an emery cloth. And just remember the orientation of that's how they orient themselves in the burner. So looking into it, the two flame sensors go to the left and the igniter goes down, which then on the bottom, the two connectors go down and the igniter goes towards the right. Okay? So we inspect that. Then we're going to take a flashlight and we're going to look inside this burner. Just put your light into one of the holes, look in there, and you're going to see that this burner is filled with debris. So now we got to remove the orifice cover and that top burner plate. So tuck your stuff on the side here. You want to remove the igniter, which is right here. You want to remove this igniter. So find the two gray wires that come from the igniter, push in the tab, take it out, take this out, remove the wire from the thermal fuse, and then take your screw gun, your screwdriver, remove the screw, and your igniter comes right out. Now the igniter will stay in there. It's got another screw that holds it in, so your igniter will stay. Now if you want to use two of these magnetic trays, go right ahead. Alright, now there's two ties and a ground. You want to remove this ground. Now that is a machine thread. That is a machine thread. It is not like these self-tapping threads you're going to see in a minute. And then remove this tie. Now we want to remove the two screws for the gas valve. Again, those are machine screws. And they have an 8mm hex. So these are the screws for the gas valve. Alright, so now your gas valve is free. Now we want to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 their longer screws. So you want to remove this tie right here, that screw, that screw, okay, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you another top screw because I have extra. You see the height difference in the screws? I don't know if you can see that, but there is. Let me see if I can get my fat fingers to show you. You see the difference in the screws? That's because it has to get through this plate to get in there. All right, now you need to get this burner plate out. Okay, now there's solenoids on here. 1, 2, 3, 4 solenoids. You have to unplug them. Now, I'm going to show you something. They pretty much orient themselves, but if you look on the front of this unit, it says RDBLY. So you got red, blue, yellow. If you look on this wire color, red, blue, yellow, and then over here is brown in the back. So it's red, blue, yellow, and then kind of almost like a lightish brown or an orange right here. That's the solenoid. Wires for the solenoid. So now, now we expose the burner. And now you got all of this mucky gasket. Now, you're going to need to have gaskets. And in the description below, I will give you the part number for the gaskets. They peel off sometimes quite easily, as you can see what I'm doing here. But you got to be very careful if you're going to use a razor blade. You don't want to gouge into this aluminum. So what I normally do is use a brass wire wheel on a Dremel and blue tape these orifices, not to get any dust in there. Or I just sit here with my thumb and work the gaskets off like that. Just like that, how I work the gasket off. And then I use denatured alcohol on like a paper towel, and I just clean this off, because denatured alcohol will evaporate quite quickly. And the gasket is self-adhesive, so one end is self-adhesive. You have to clean off this too. Now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws to take off this burner plate. And that also has a gasket. It's more of a high temperature gasket on this one. Now, if you notice, there's holes here that plate, the burner plate, actually goes through these holes. And that's the reason that the screws are longer. So we, 1, 2, and don't worry, that one dropped on the floor because we have extra. 3. Best thing to do if you have any units that are condemned, that are old, that you're taking out because they're beyond repair, steal as many screws as you can and keep them, like what I've been showing you. So now this burner plate will now remove. Now, it tucked up underneath the thermal fuse clips, so you kind of have to remove it like that and up and out. So there is your, see the back of the burner plate? See the difference? See the difference between that plate? And this is an old plate too, and this plate. See how dirty it is? Now you have the burner. See these 2 little notches here? That's where your screwdriver is going to go to the back to catch those 2 screws. You see there's also a gasket on the back of this. So there's 2 screws that you're catching, and this is like a real pain in the neck to hold. But you see the 2 screws right there? The 2 screw holes there and there? That's what is in the back of the receiver notch. Now, that is another main reason that I love these screwdrivers. So, you're going to throw a flashlight in there. and find that screw. And trust me, it's not easy. There we go. There's one screw. Now, if you lose this screw, it's going to fall down to the fan. So there's one. See how the wearer holds it on? And then the other screw. It's right there. And there's your other screw. Getting it back in is even. Now, your burner is loose. Depending on how old this is, it's going to be a little bit to get this out. You got to be very careful if you're going to try using a pair of pliers. There we go. There's your dirty burner. Now, sometimes these burners are in such disrepair, you would have to just change it. Okay, now, what you want to do is you want to inspect. I'm going to take the camera off and show you inside of this. Just make some room here. I'm going to show you inside of this. See that? See all that dust and debris? And then look at the underside of the heat exchanger. See how green that is? Because that's where the heat transfers through to the heat exchanger, and then the carbon monoxide comes out that vent. Alright, let me get this camera back on, and then I'm going to show you how you're going to clean that. Now, you're going to need a vacuum, an air compressor, plastic bag, clamps, a respirator, because this is caustic in here. You don't want to breathe it, especially on an exterior unit, because everything's going to be coming out this way to you. An interior unit's got a vent going outside, but you still don't want this stuff blowing all around. So, first thing what you want to do is you want to vacuum the unit, but you don't want to vacuum it with a hard bristle brush. All right, you want to vacuum it with a soft bristle. So you want to get up in there with the vacuum and start vacuuming this, moving this bristles around. You don't want to use a wire brush, you don't want to use a screwdriver, you don't want to use anything, because you don't want to bend the heat exchanger fins. You bend them, you reduce the surface of the heat exchanger. Okay, so you want to get in there with this brush. Brush it, brush it, brush it, brush it. Get in here, brush it, brush it, brush it. Now, you want to remove the fan. So we're going to take the fan out. The fan has this large plug right here. Pull the fan out. And then there's 3 screws. Just remember that the wire is going towards the PC board. Now, there's 2 reasons you want to check the fan, but if you lose a screw from the burner, that's where you're going to find it, inside of the fan. And again, don't worry about it, we have tons of screws. So here's your fan. It's got a little bit of debris on it. It's not spinning as good as it should. This thing should continuously spin. I'll show you a fan that's somewhat good. See how that spins? A lot more revolutions on that one. So, now you got that. You want to take your vacuum this out. Now you want to blow this out. You want to blow it out with about 100 psi of air pressure. All right? So that's what we use. But you're not just going to blow this thing out. What you want to do is you want to put a plastic bag over it. It's going to contain most of that debris that's in there. But it's, again, you need to wear some type of a respirator. So you want to put the bag on, put it around the vent. Now, of course, if it's an interior unit, you're just going to put it and then clamp on the bag. Whoop. One side, the other side, clamp the bag on. You have room in here. And then you take your compressor and you blow out. All right? You blow it out repeatedly. All right, so now, and then you go back with your vacuum, you go back with the compressor, you go back with the vacuum, you go back with the compressor. You want to vacuum out. So let's just take this off so we can see what we're doing. You want to vacuum out in here, inside of this, where the air gets, the fan shoots the air up into the burner. You want to vacuum in here. All right, you vacuum this all out. In here, if you want to use a brush, you can. But again, on the heat exchanger, no brush. Burner plate, no, be very careful with the knife. Be very gentle when you're scraping with the knife. Or, you know what's the best thing to have to use? Remember the old, I don't know, you guys remember the inspection sticker scrapers? These are great to use, and they use a safety razor blade from shaving. That's what they use. So it's it was used to inspection and registration stickers on windshields. That's the best thing to use. I have one on my truck. All right, so now you got this all cleaned. You most likely will have to change, you might have to change the igniter and flame sensors. Again, all the part numbers will be in the description below. All right, so you got this all cleaned. You got this, see, look, you see the gasket? Gasket's still hanging out here. You got it. You got a piece of a gasket right there. You want to clean this all off. But use a Dremel with the brass wire wheel. Okay. So now we got that all cleaned off. Now we got to get and put this all back together. Oh, nope, we don't. Excuse me. We got this now that we have to clean. You're going to try, it's not as bad as looking as this. You want to scrape it, you want to, you could use a wire brush on this, wire brush this down. Do not use a wire brush on this. What you want to do then is you want to blow air through this, through this, through this. Now, what I bought was, you know, the oxyacetylene tip cleaners? You can get them in Harbor Freight, you can get them in Northern Tools, and they're little, almost like files. And they clean the tips of the oxyacetylene torches. That's what I use to clean these out. Now, you want to make sure it fits or it's a little smaller. And then you'll loosen up all this debris. See, like, you got 2 holes right there. They're totally clogged. Let's see, do we have any more here that I could show you? There's one that's partially clogged. So you want to clean that out. Then you want to take that compressor with 100 psi or 110, blow this out. Now, we use a DeWalt folding table. That's what we have set up here, and we put a piece of cardboard on top of it, and that's what we use to put the stuff on and then clean the stuff out. You can also blow out the burner plate, but don't go shoving nothing in the orifice holes. And I'll tell you a quick thing. We had a problem one day. The unit was not firing correctly. I went and took this burner plate off. I'm staring at the burner plate, and I see this tan colored things in here, like in about 6, 7 of them. I'm like, what the heck? And I got one out. The guy used a toothpick, and he broke them, and he just left them in there. So don't use anything in here. Just clean them and blow them off with air. And just be very careful with these solenoids. Okay? Now, so now we want to get the burner back in. Now, we didn't clean this burner, so it's a little bit of, just bear in mind, everything around this is sharp. So be careful with your fingers, because everything around this is very sharp. All right, so now you're in. It pretty much almost falls into place. All right? Now, we want to get those 2 pesky screws back in. So let's find those 2 small screws. Now, let me get these screws in. I'm going to show you what my hands look like so far. How dirty this thing becomes. You light. All right, now once you get it in there, you're going to have to kind of feel around with this up and down. Right there. And then, so you're actually using the screw to lift up the bottom of the burner plate. These are the hardest to get in. All right, so there is your last screw. Now, okay, so you cleaned up. Now you want to put the fan back in. So the fan, again, the plug is going towards the PC board. Because if you put it in any other way, you're not going to get the wire in. You're going to find the 3 small screws. All of the small screws are identical. Find your first one. Don't tighten it like I just did, because you got to be able to move the fan up. And once you get the second screw in, and then the bottom screw, and then plug your fan back in. All right, so now you got that all taken care of. Now you want to put your burner plate back in. Now, your burner plate, again, is going to go up on an angle and down. Make sure your little wire ties aren't in the way. And then, here, look at my hands so far. That's how dirty this thing can get. Then you want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we did drop 2 screws. So you want to put these screws in. You want to get that zip tie in there. You want to get this zip tie in there. Well, as we call them, the Japanese zip ties. Wire ties. That one. See, I know exactly where to stop. Just do it with a screwdriver. Don't do it with the drill. Plus my drill is a rocker, forward, reverse, forward, reverse. Okay, last screw. Now we got to put the big screws in. Now, here's something important. You got to make sure that the flat O-ring for the gas valve stayed in. It's also good to have these extra. So if you're going to order O-rings, like for the heat exchanger, the thermistors, order a couple of O-rings for the gas valves. And they sit right in a ridge on the gas valve. And I'm going to show you, let me grab this gas valve so I can show you. You see, here is the O-ring. See how it sits in a recess? And it just sits right in there, just like that. And there's those two machine screws. Okay? So now, you got your plate on. Now you got your long screws right here. All right, you want to take your gas valve screws and get them started. You'll actually feel it kind of drop in to like a recess in there. Okay, don't worry if it falls off, because you're going to take one of your long screws and you're going to put a long screw in here. And then your other gas valve screw. Don't tighten, don't go crazy tightening these things up. Just snug them. Then go, and I like to put my zip tie in there. That screw. Then we got to grab another long screw and another short screw. Short screw right there. See how there's a recess in the burner? And then one more long screw right there. Okay, now want to put our igniter back in. Remember, it's a small machine screw. There's an index. And you see, I don't use the drill all the time. I still use this. All right, igniter. Plug your igniter in. Find where you did your, there it is. Okay, now you want to put in your, goes around back. Put in your first brown, then you want to go yellow, And it is easier with a flashlight. Yellow, blue, and red. Hey, there we go. Okay. So now we have our sensor, our igniter, right? So now you want to you got these two other machine screws. One is for this ground. Right there. And then the other one is for that last wire tie, which is right here, which goes right in this corner. Okay, then we have one more long screw, which goes right there. And there you go. Now just make sure that they're snug. You got this last one, the one that you just set in there temporarily, and tuck back your wires. All right, now I gotta grab a couple of screws because I lost two of them. How many do I have here? I need 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now you put your new gasket. You might have put in new igniter and flame sensors. Make sure you orient them in the right direction, and then slip them right through. See, this one is not right. This one is moved. Remember, left, and down. Get them in there, and then get your screwdriver. That's the only bad thing. I love this long screwdriver, but I'm just so used to using it. Once you get this first screw in, everything else is a piece of cake with this. Because you gotta kind of hold it in there for that this thing don't move around. And we'll get it. There we go. Okay. So once you get one in there, then you can switch over to your drill. Well, I switch over to your drill. You're going to continue with your screwdriver. Now, even on the two flame sensors, it says yellow and, well, it says red, but it's really like pink. So you want to put your boot on. You want to put your igniter in. And then you want to put your red. You want to put your yellow. Then you want to go over everything. Remember, these are all your extra stuff. Your freeze protection. That's the electric in there. Oh, we forgot to tighten the gas valve screws. Okay, so we're all tightened down. Got all our screws in. Double check, make sure all your screws, you don't see any open holes. Now you got to match, there's a match over here for igniter. Index screw hole, index screw hole. That's where the igniter goes, so don't worry about that hole. So we got all our screws in, everything is in. Now you want to turn your power back on, turn the gas back on, bleed it out. Remember, you didn't touch anything with the PC board, so the PC board still should be the same. You didn't hit any of the dip switches. Keep the flap closed so you don't accidentally touch any of it. Turn it back on, fire it up. Takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours to do this. All right? So that's it. Just double check, make sure everything is pushed in. Make sure that you have the 1, 2, 3, 4 solenoids. You have the fan plug, and you have these 2 gray wires from the igniter. So if you remember that those were the wires: igniter, fan, and 4 solenoids, and then this is part of the igniter, of course, and then your 2 flame sensors. That's the whole thing that you should be unplugging, of course, or the unit. All right, YouTube. I hope this was helpful. Yeah, once you get this back on, you'll test it. You could look through the viewport, see how the flame is. But with blowing it out with that 100 pounds of air, it should work. It works really well. All right, tool time. Nope, wrong one. All right. Well, I'll actually show you both. All right. These are Rinnai pliers. These are wire strippers and screw cutter tap. And these are stake on. So these crimp on. Let me grab this wire here. These crimp on these right here, which we call stake-ons, crimp-ons, and we use them to connect to the PC board for the controller. But the beauty about it, even though these are small pliers, and as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 different sizes. These are very strong. So once this gets in here, and you squeeze it, you get that nice crimp. It actually makes almost like a U crimp in it. I found these to be better than any other plier out there, and they're, as you can see, they're very compact, they're very small. And these, for strippers, no pun intended, very sharp, very durable, little curved, so they're a little friendly to your hands. Again, you can find these on kctools.com. They're a full distributor of all Weir, all the German tools out there. All right, YouTube, you got a question? My email will be below. Shoot it to me. We'll get into contact with each other. Alrighty? I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week on our next video. Take care now. Bye-bye.